Welcome everybody once again to another great day of the KeSPA Cup 2018. I'm Valdez. With me is Papa Smithy. On screen is our host, Lee Kyung. We're going to be bringing some more of, fantastic League of Legends that we got coming in here with the new patch, the new rosters, some new teams as well, some newly renamed and acquired teams, which will be part of our first matchup here, SANDBOX Gaming up against Winners.
It's all about the new era of Korean League of Legends after Worlds was a misfire from Korea for the first time in about 6 years. Looking over the brackets, you'll notice if you missed yesterday's matches, GC Busan taking down MVP. Pretty easy, 2-0. The big surprise, though, Hanwha Life Esports, 6th placed LCK team, being eliminated by KEG Seoul pickup team in our second series. Definitely go back on Africa TV and look at that VOD there. Really big victory for some very young players we might be seeing around the LCK in future years. About today, you notice another new name. Who is this SANDBOX Gaming lineup, you might ask? That is, in fact, the old team Battle Comics, one of the new teams in LCK Spring 2019. They'll be playing off in our first series against one of the other teams in the promotion series. That was Winners, who did not promote to the LCK.
Yeah, but of course, Winners bringing in some new lineups and some new rosters.
Some new old players as well.
You might recognize the name Insec.
One of them. Yeah.
I've kind of heard of him if you're a fan of League of Legends.
Oh, he's the guy with the insect kick, right?
He's the one who created Lee Sin, right? Something like that.
I think we're
somehow
close.
related.
I think we're close.
Yeah.
I think we're close. Maybe we'll learn as we go on in today's broadcast, but amazing to have Insect back in a tournament. It's been so long. It went over to China in 2014.
Wow.
And has been out of the LCK and Korean competition since then. So really a pleasure to have one of the ultra legends of Korean League of Legends. In fact, just one of the most famous players of all time. Even when he retires, if that ever happens, that insect kick will live forever. So very, very cool to have him in the studio today and to get cast one of his games. Will we have an insect kick? Will we get a Lee Sin pick? Because Lee Sin's pretty good in the meta right now.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see at least one Lee Sin that is played by Insect. Will he do the kick? Will it happen? We don't really know, but let's introduce our teams here. We do have SANDBOX Gaming, of course, acquiring Team Battle Comics, which did make their way into the LCK after making it through promotions the last time around. You'll notice that some new names are on the roster. Ghost and Totoro, that old bot lane from BBQ. Totoro has been around the block a little bit as well, making it back here onto this team, but not going to be playing or starting just yet. We also have Crush coming into the jungle instead of On Fleek, who's not going to be starting either.
Yeah, Crush was on the roster, but it was On Fleek who was the big star of Battle Comics, making it through the promotion tournament. Won't be starting for game number 1, at least. I know Crush had some injury concerns previously. He's able to play again, so that's good to have both those junglers available to go. But on the other side, in the middle of your screen, the jungler there, definitely the name people will know and love. Insect back in Korea 4.5 years later. Last played on KT Rolster Bullets in OGN Champion Spring 2014. How much has happened since then in the world of League of Legends? Rest of the lineup here, Crab in the top lane, not to be confused with Cabby, the new support for Griffin that we might see later in the tournament. Marit in the mid lane, and then Gap and Empire are your bot lane. Let's see how Winners look. Another new look Challengers team. Even in the secondary league, they were not spared from the roster apocalypse that has taken over basically every Korean roster, short of a team like Griffin or Damwon Gaming.
Only a select few, as you mentioned, keep basically the same roster. So exciting to see some new names making their way, some legends returning back to the Korean scene. And you never know what's going to happen in, Challengers Korea Spring. Maybe Insect can bring this new lineup up towards the top. Maybe we'll see them in promotions. Maybe we'll actually get a chance to have them in LCK for the next year. The fun thing about KeSPA Cup is that all of those questions can give you some initial answers on where is this team in terms of their skill level before LCK and Challengers Korea even start next year.
And these are two squads who know each other very well. Battle Comics and at times Ever8 Winners, and now just Winners, have been playing, as you can see, in 2018 and 2017. It's a very long rivalry between the two. In the summer playoffs, it was Battle Comics upsetting Winners, because Winners were one of the big favorites to promote into LCK Spring 2019. At the time, they had a lot of famous players. Knight, for example, the mid laner for Roccat in the past. But they were taken down 3-0 in a big surprise. You'll notice at the bottom there, cool note here. We call him Old Man Score because he was the oldest player in the LCK until now.
Yeah.
Joker is, in fact, the starting support today and a few months older than Score, so he is certainly a veteran and the only active player to have already finished his military service. Other names like Trace, who is a coach on Gen G, for example, he's done his military service. A lot of the coaching staff, of course, have done that as well. Marin, another famous one who has done it. When it comes to starting players, it's only Joker, and when it comes to legends, it's only Insec.
Yeah, the translation funny as well. After 4 years, he returns as Lee Sin himself. I suppose so. We'll see if he actually does play that, but take a look at all of his results and every championship that he has garnered for himself up until now. The legend returns.
You ask any fan of League of Legends competitive around the world to name 5 players from Korea, it's pretty inevitable that Insec will be on that list. An ultra legend of League of Legends. Such a fun thing to have him here and still playing in competitive. We got Flame for the Flame Horizon. We've got Captain Jack for his clans, and of course, Lee Sin, and the Insec kick is what Insec is famous for. Does that mean that SANDBOX Gaming just popped the balloon and first ban it on the blue side or red side, depending on their start? It's a possibility, but I know we all hold out hope, hold our breath to see something like the Lee Sin from Insec.
Yeah, I mean, we already had what you would call a romantic start to the entire tournament here of the KeSPA Cup 2018 with KEG Seoul overtaking Halma Life Esports yesterday, the reverse sweep in the best of 3, and making their way up as just 5 amateur players to make it to the round of 8. How about Insec comes in, back, the legend in Korea, plays some Lee Sin, shows us some Insec kicks. We'll have to wait and see. But guys, Pick and Ban is ready to go, so let's jump into that for game number 1.
We're booking it through the show today. That's what I like to see. And we're already in to game number 1. And look at this. Galio's promoted all the way to first ban status on the blue side. The Ahri ban seems like it's going to be a targeted ban towards Marit because Ahri's power level kind of always been decent, but never really top rung in at least recent memory. If you look at solo queue, Marit has been, playing around with a lot of different things. I'm sure that a lot of the meta picks are still potentially there. The Nico, of course, that everyone is trying out. The Draven actually hits the ban list today. Targeted ban at Gap, one of those big Draven mains in solo queue. Cool to have Gap back. It was the 80 carry sub of winners for the majority of 2018. Played 8 games. We went 7-1 and could play those awesome dudes like the Mordekais and the Swain very well. So definitely a wide champion pool for Gap. So we'll see how these go, because already feels like the ban meta is very different to yesterday, Valdez.
Yeah, I mean, with all of these targeted bans, it means that a lot of strong stuff still left available. We got the Aatrox, one that stands out. The Nico that saw a lot of play yesterday, not to much success, but will be first picked here by winners regardless.
And again, because the reputation could very much be the bot lane Nico that we've been talking about, but not actually seeing on the Rift. I want to draw your attention to the Morgana ban from winners. That's against Joker, who's known for his Morgana. That is very much the champion he is feared on. So I like the fact that he takes the respect ban there. The tier list is going to be different for every team. It's 824B. The patch has been live for literally 1 day in Korea and less than a full day in North America. So it is a unexplored patch. A lot of the champions that were good at World, specifically in solo lanes, are still super damn good. And it's already a surprise to me that a champion like Aatrox was not preferred for winners first pick here. I think Aatrox is still right up there in terms of priority.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Others that stand out are Aurelia and Akali that are still left available, but if they're planning on putting Nico into the mid lane, that definitely cuts down on where those other 2 champions could be placed. Now, they could pick up something like an Akali or even an Aurelia to answer some questions for us. Looks like they're going to hover the Thresh for now.
Insec had the chance. Let's remember, he had the chance to lock in Lee Sin for himself. But look at this team player. He's seamlessly adapting back into Korean pro play. No Lee Sin just yet, but we're all holding our breath to see that pick. I was playing for Origin, of course, in EU Masters when they went on to win that tournament. But they're going to get a very powerful duo lane. Lifesteal, it was dubbed the Lucian and Thresh duo lane. Very much picked for power on the side of winners. And they're going to be able to ban away bot lane champions if LeBlanc is going to be selected.
Oh boy.
This will be both solo lanes taken on the side of SANDBOX, basically top side the map locked into. Olo and Joker, who were kind of the weak link of this team when they were trying to aspire towards both making playoffs and also making it to the LCK. Going to absorb a couple more bans. top side versus bot side seems to be going. And now we do know pretty much that Marit will be the one onto the Nico.
Yeah, and that does look a bit scary, especially when that LeBlanc comes out. We saw what GC Busan Rising Star were able to do yesterday with really aggressive picks. Now we already have an extremely aggressive lineup and what looks like a counter matchup in the mid lane for LeBlanc versus Nico. I hope this doesn't turn into just LCK's team, strong LCK team up against winners who are struggling in challengers, and it turns into a stomp, but so far, definitely liking the pick ban here for SANDBOX.
In single elimination, you look past someone, you get eliminated. Hanwha Life are the epitome of that happening on this very day, in this very tournament. So, we zoom into this particular game and say that it feels like SANDBOX has some pretty good lineups here and some pretty good chances to take things down. They had the choice of basically these three picks, LeBlanc, Irelia, and Akali, into something like the mid lane Nico. They settled on the LeBlanc. They're not interested in giving any flex solo laners the side of winners. They want to know the last pick where basically everything is going, and banning away things like Irelia and Akali removes some flexible options from the side of winners.
Yeah, like the bans here from winners as well. Just the Ezreal, we saw his power yesterday is pretty insane. Alistair also up there, top 3 supports. They're going to take that away. Pretty good up against the Thresh as well, especially after level 6, but instead we're going to see that power pick in the Braum that we saw a lot yesterday as well just be picked up here for Joker.
Now let me just throw a name out there and see where it lands. Vayne. Vayne is a possibility for the final pick here from SANDBOX. A lot of people talking about Vayne and Ezreal, Vayne to KeSPA. Lucian is a very tricky matchup, of course, but you hear a lot of people talking about it and you wonder, Valdez. The KeSPA would be the most obvious choice for Holo. He defaults towards the KeSPA, but I feel like we'll see a Vayne sometime today. I don't know if it's going to be this game with also Gragas and the Urgot thrown in. Looking for some picks here. So Gragas jungle, going to be Urgot top side. No Lee Sin, even though it's available. Sad days for game number 1. Coming through from Insec. Waiting for the final pick here, and Ultra Safety will be the Varus choice, and given they already have a lot of damage, maybe that's just a way to go.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I was thinking maybe the Sivir if you want to have kind of that back pocket later game. Also a little bit of safety in the lane with their spell shield, but Varus definitely pretty popular as well. Looks like it will be locked in here for Hollow. Down to the last second. And there you have it. Here are our lineups for game number 1. What do you think, Papa, so far?
Pretty powerful pick comp coming through from the side of SANDBOX here. Formerly Team Battle Comics, if you're getting a little bit confused as to who SANDBOX are. Again, rename announced today. Now SANDBOX Gaming. Very strong pick CC on basically everyone here. And also, they managed to find a pretty strong laning duo to deal with Lucian and Thresh, right next to Caitlyn Thresh. Is probably the strongest possible blind pick duo lane. My big worry on the winner's side is how Marit's going to be able to get through this mid lane. Unless Insect gives him a lot of help to baby him through, LeBlanc can wave clear fast and also all in so effectively onto that Nico. If Nico gets going, we know that she can blow up an entire team, but it's a big if, especially based on yesterday's kind of paltry results from the Nico players.
Yeah, I mean, as you were going through that, I was getting wide-eyed, playing a lot of Nico myself nowadays, mid lane, up against some of these strong assassin champions, particularly LeBlanc. You're going to have a hard time if you don't have some help. So maybe Insect has to baby Barret, but that means that you're going to lose probably on other parts of the map, and that's when, you know, Crush and Weiser maybe can get something together and prove that, you know, hey, we're coming in here as new guys, but we're going to make it happen.
Crush especially, one of the strongest agency junglers next to Pantheon at level 2, and you look at the lanes he has to gank and you say, okay, ching, when it comes to potentially getting off some really successful early ganks. Meanwhile, Insect's on a Predator jungler, unless he just flexes to electrocute, so it's going to be tricky for him to match the agency that Camille innately has.
Should be a fun game for Crush. We are going to have our interview. We've been doing this, guys, here at the KeSPA Cup, where we interview one of our coaches right after pick ban before the first game. So here is SANDBOX Gaming's coach,
팀으로 바뀌고 첫 공식전인데요. 이 바뀐 게 팀명뿐만 아니라 더 많은 것들이 바뀌었다고 들었어요.
네, 맞습니다.
This is your first official match under the SANDBOX gaming name. There are a lot of official changes within the team. We changed our team house, just like a lot of other LCK teams. And we have been getting a lot of attention from our new changes.
네, 맞습니다. 근데 그거는 이제 급하게 구하느라
You guys have new vehicles to bring the players over to the arena. These are temporary vehicles, but maybe we can make those permanent after maybe the company is watching this interview. So since promoting, from challengers up to LCK, the KeSPA Cup's a great chance to show your stuff before the LCK. The results yesterday were amazing. What do you think about yesterday's results? They're just a show of the recent meta, and also all the teams are leveling up all together. Even the KEG Seoul players. And once you get that snowball rolling in this new meta, you can't really stop it. All our players love to fight, but specifically our mid laner loves to get in there, the most aggressive out of all of them.
인터뷰 때 얘기 드렸듯이 저희는 항상 공격적인 게임 하고 싶기 때문에 언제든지 공격적인 게임으로 보시는 분들에게 재미를 좀 선사해드리고 싶습니다.
So from the pick and ban, as you can see, we love to get aggressive, and that's our plan for most of these games, as you can notice from the pick and ban. So that was our interview with the coach here from SANDBOX Gaming. Of course, the old Battle Comics coach who is ultra tall. So many players actually in that lineup are really tall, if you'll remember from that one interview we did over at the promotion tournament. But guys, it looks like the game is just about ready to jump into here. So let's jump into game number 1 now. SANDBOX Gaming up against Winner here at the KeSPA Cup 2018. Here we go. Group B is what they're calling it here. This round of 16 match of Winners versus SANDBOX Gaming. Winners on blue, SANDBOX on red. Let the fight begin.
And the fight beginning is very much, I think, the right introduction to League of Legends in this current meta. It seems very much about scrapping first turret, first skirmishes, whatever goes your way. Any firsts seem to herald a victory, and that is a big thing in this current meta. Another big thing is that we see SANDBOX Gaming, previously Battle Comics, play, and Dove's not the one on Aatrox. Dove is one of the best Aatroxes we have in Korea. If you look at solo queue, we have, of course, the promotion tournament where he played an amazing Aatrox in bad matchups.
Oh, yeah.
But also in solo queue, he's played 21 games this season already. He has an 81% win rate in Challenger on the Aatrox. He's a monster on the pick. Weiser ends up getting it because Dove wants to take this LeBlanc into the mid lane matchup. It's against Nico, even though you look on the left side and see a Gragas. The meta we've learned, and definitely every other team will copy this, is at level 1, you always disguise yourself as the jungler, so you can just fake a late invade, fake a lot of different things, because where your jungler is seen in the early game usually allows people to predict the camps he's taking, and thus the first gank route he's going to take. But if you can't tell if it's a late invade or a red buff start, you're definitely in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Even switching over to the Lucian here. Just some more mind games. I don't think they're going to have the idea that Gap is playing the mid lane on the mid Lucian, unless they go for a weird lane swap.
Hey, it's already a success. I saw a question mark ping in the mid lane. The LeBlanc was like, wait, what? And
you gotta think of everything, I suppose.
You do. Your wits around you when you are playing against the Nico. We still haven't seen the impersonate gank really pop off. We've only got 1 day of play to inspect, but that is our greedy request now. We've seen a couple of decent Pop Blossoms, but rather than the 5-man Pop Blossom, I'm looking to some next level disguises from the Nico mid lane on a road.
Yeah, I mean, there's just some really cool stuff you can do. We were talking about it yesterday where, you know, the top laner goes into the brush and then it looks like the top laner's coming out, but actually it's the Nico and you ult them, or you throw out a route that the top laner wouldn't have, but a Nico would. Just a lot of fun stuff that, again, in competitive play, These players are going to be very smart and conscious of this kind of stuff. You'll see all sorts of cool clips on Reddit, and win your own solo queue games. A bunch of fun stuff will happen, but we'll have to wait and see if the pros can actually make the Nico work in that way. Yesterday, it was more so the Nico getting bullied over and over by a bunch of very aggressive champions that she couldn't deal with much. So I hope that trend changes as a Nico fan myself.
But we are going to see an extension of that aggression and that aggressive meta we're talking about. Red buff steal coming through from Crush. Seems like it's a pre-planned thing here. Full clear is being done by Insect. He is, of course, one of those Predator junglers who wants to go back and get boots. So goes with the safest possible clear. In spite of having a Nico to help him with level 1 decision-making, we'll get 3 buffed after all. So nice start for Crush in this game.
Marit here picking up the cleanse just to make it a little bit easier to deal with the chains as well as the Camille stun. If the Camille decides to go for a very early gank, you can just cleanse and flash away, most unfortunately. And Insect gonna come in here, see his red is gone, and just sadly take the Krugs.
And I think this is also another kind of technical point, but what we're learning is if you have a combat and skirmishing advantage on your jungler, you always take Camille over Gragas early. It can actually work against the Nico comp, because usually you want your Nico comp to have both a jungler that's going out there and ganking, this very standard thing, but also the Nico's ability to feign aggression and gank herself. If you're allowing the enemy team to invade, steal a buff, and find the enemy jungler on a camp, now there's no ambiguity about where the Nico is and where the Gragas is. If you know where the enemy jungler is, you have so much less threat of being surprised by the Nico. So there's quite a lot of information here for SANDBOX to use, and thus not a lot of disruption for the Nico to actually put onto the Rift.
Yep, already a good start for them in terms of mid and jungle. We take a look at the bottom lane. The Lucian and Thresh should be getting a bit aggressive, but the Braum pick that was picked after the Alistar was banned, trying to shut some of that down. Nice Ghost Poro here is also going to spot Joker, or rather Insect. Sorry, wrong player, but he is going to be spotted in the red side jungle, moving over towards the mid lane.
Okay, in this classic matchup, I think some people would use air quotes for that one, but a lot of Aatrox versus Urgot at Worlds. In Korea, we were seeing Cuvée and other Aatroxes win the matchup, but consistently at Worlds, it was Urgot running all over the Aatrox. So we'll wait and see if that's going to be a player skill thing or just a matchup thing as the matchup goes on. But regardless, 55-45 at best for the Urgot in the top side. Just like we said, because we had kind of a lot of matches of Assassin versus Control Mage, you know, the likes of Nico when it comes to our mid lane matchups in the KeSPA Cup. Big issue here is if the Flex Assassins get going, then unfortunately not a lot of places for the Nico to go. Side laning going to be a lot harder for her compared to LeBlanc or Aatrox. So very much about how the early snowball goes. If it goes the way of SANDBOX, it's a double whammy to winners actually getting going.
See, they spotted the Camille coming on in here, but even the Predator is popped, and the bottom lane that's pushing, it makes its way over, but still that control ward is cleared out there by Crush. We talked a little bit yesterday about vision and how now you can only hold 2 control wards, so lots of junglers picking up a bit extra, and you'll notice that Insect here is going to replace that control ward as well.
Insect just doing his thing. Of course, no way to shout out his name just yet. We can't get hyped about him. No big plays until Gragas starts using the E-Flash or the ultimate to make those plays. And largely, it's been dictated to by Crush. Crush no longer ahead in terms of camps, but got that 3 buff at the start. That's really robbed Insect of any ganking pressure before then. Otherwise, Varus Braum, like you mentioned, is kind of neutralized. Thresh and Lucian, you'll take that for a second round bot lane that was put together. And we're just waiting for first item completions before we see either of the solo lanes really tip one way or the other. Definitely the sort of matchup where there's not a lot of strong counterpicks outside of LeBlanc, and she needs a bit of time to really fully take advantage of the mid lane matchup. So given all of that, not quite the bloody early game that we're looking for.
Yeah, part of the fun part of the KeSPA Cup, if you guys are just tuning in and you want to see the highest level League of Legends, well, we kind of mixed that with some of the newer players and the challenger teams here in Korea as well. We noticed yesterday that some of those super young players, 16-year-old Gumiusi, the SKT trainee, able to come in here and help trump out Hanwha Life Esports. Some new players on both of these lineups as well. Crab versus Weiser, one of those matchups. We'll see how they do here. Crab kind of getting baited in as Crush making his way down the lane. Not level 6 yet, but trying to get that gank off with the red buff. Crab is going to be forced to flash away to safety.
Getting any defensive summoners out of an Urgot is always a welcome respite for a very overwhelming champion. In lane, can take Ignite, of course, with Spellbook. And man, a couple of Qs on the end there and almost went down. Crush is trying to chase this. Remember, he has his flash up.
Oh, he could just flash to this one. He's not even going to have to. One extra Q, and there it is. First blood goes over to Crush.
Insect's level 6.
Insect level 6. Flashing over the wall, though, here is Crush able to save that. Down in the bottom lane, it looks like Braum and the Thresh trading kills here, but Gap much more health than Hollow.
Doesn't have his mana for ultimate, could kill him here,
Yeah.
but no mana there. That could have been the chase down. Gonna get away with that one in a 1-for-1 off screen between the bot lane supports.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get a replay of exactly what happened down there, but here it is. Looks like just the Chains of Corruption's eaten by Empire, but Lucian, and a nice hook, actually able to make that kill a reality on the backside. Last tick of Ignite makes it happen.
One thing I want people to appreciate at home, remember we are playing on a one-day-old patch 824B where Varus' ultimate had 50 base damage at level 1 added. 50 base damage when you have low base stats that early. It's not something to really shake your nose at. It's a really big buff when it comes to level 1 all-ins, and that's probably just a calculation from Empire that he didn't really consider and ends up going down because, you know, if that was 50 less damage, it could have been a 2-for-0 on the side of winners. So just cool to see that one and just something to remember because we have that quirk of the system where it's not the Riot system where you have at least 1 week for changes and 2 weeks for big champion changes. This is a non-Riot tournament, KeSPA run tournament, so we're just going live, and that means we have little things like that that are just a bit different than previous scenarios.
Yeah, and it could be one of the small reasons why we have seen a bunch more Varus than we were expected. Solo queue, before we came into the KeSPA Cup, day 1 was all about the Lucian, Ezreal, and all that good stuff. Dove, really nice trade here, and you can see just how much trouble the Nico has early on. You throw out a root in a queue, and you're like, well, I did a little bit of damage, I guess, but the Corrupting Pot is ticking for LeBlanc as she chunks you down for more than half your health.
And this style of LeBlanc has always been so good against control mages because you've moved away from the previous LeBlanc, Gunblade LeBlanc a couple of years ago, and back to the original RW LeBlanc that maxes that W first, means she has Shove, which is, of course, one of those weaknesses of Nico, and can all-in killer, the secondary weakness. So pretty much everything that Nico despises what LeBlanc has. We're on to this first Ocean Drake. It's going to be Joker coming to help it out, and for a first spawn, it's always been good. It's even better after the buffs were actually tuned up when it comes to the first spawn. So a bit extra sustain here to help these laning matchups go better and better for the side of SANDBOX.
Yeah, it would have been nice for the Nico if they could have gotten that one, but you notice that Insect was spending his time up in the top lane trying to help out the flashless Crab bait the Aatrox into a 2-versus-1. Didn't end up happening. Maybe some strong communication from the side of SANDBOX. Here's Insect once again trying to help out in the mid lane, but Dove going to be too smart for that one.
Really like the counter-ganking position there from Insect. Doesn't lead to anything this time, but even the mind game of, oh, Insect was there last time, can I go for this all-in, is something to put some doubt and maybe get an extra minion wave or two into the hands of the Nico rather than just a LeBlanc looking for an all-in at every opportunity. Yeah. Empire's here to help out as well, but Marit already below half health. See what comes of this right now. Mid-control top side, the control ward just above where we see Dove on the screen, doing a lot of work here to help the Nico out.
Insect spotted a couple of times. Marit low on health. That means what we saw a lot of yesterday, these very early Rift Herald takes before the plating comes down. Those checkpoints on the turrets can get you so much gold. 320 instantly if you're next to the Rift Herald as it hits the turret. And so that means you want to get it early before the 14-minute mark. And right now, Crush, having control of the map, already got one objective, is looking for a second already.
And that's what we've been saying. 10 to 12 minutes is the hot spot, the hot time for the starting on this Rift Herald. Usually just a solo with most of a jungle item from either jungle. And that happens here once again. Usually it's going to be the jungle with priority, right? Whichever one wins when they run at each other in the jungle is probably the one that's going to have more agency around the Rift Herald. It's a very nice pickup. We've actually never seen it used pre-14 minutes to get the gold. It's been held on to for all those other macro things to happen. And in previous metas, with the Korean tendency of playing slow and steady and relying on vision, you understand that. But I think Korean teams need to start moving up the timetable, skipping steps. You can't dot all your I's and cross all your T's in the current meta. Couldn't at Worlds, definitely can't now. So take some more risk, get some more gold, because the best way to take objectives is to show up with better items.
Really love the proactivity here from Insec. He's still only level 7. You'll notice he's a level down on Crush, but this is the 3rd lane now that he's found a really nice angle to try to get in there. Unfortunately for him, Hollow and Joker, perfect timing to just move back, take the Gromp, and say, well, we don't know where he is. We have this ward here to spot out he's not taking their Gromp. We can just back off.
I love the red pings you could see if you were watching there, where they said they pinged out the control ward, pinged out another ward, but here we go.
Okay, that's going to be a perfect cast. There is the hook, the death sentence for Joker, as a very nicely played down in the bottom lane to get the kill on the support.
Even though they pinged out the wards, even they knew it was likely Gragas was there, nicely done by Insect, gets them a big advantage in the bot side. Dove's burst range, as we can see right now, only about half health on Demaret. But the lane control is there. The kill is a bonus to the side of winners, and let's see if they get some turret checkpoints as a result. There's the first one of the game.
Yeah, going to be tipping this down. Even Empire getting in on some of that gold. As it looks like up in the top lane, Weiser able to get one of his own checkpoints. That's kind of been the sore spot so far for winners, whereas everywhere else has been kind of equal. Insec trying to help just push the lane back, as you can see. Even though it looks very hard for Marit here in the mid lane, and it is, at least he's keeping up in CS.
And we should note, with Weiser, the new starting top laner, no longer Soar, who had a good game for GC Busan yesterday. He's off the roster. Weiser's the only top laner, pure rookie, like you mentioned, Valdez. He's 30 CS odd up, and now a checkpoint on Aatrox versus Urgot. Back to the Korean standard that we saw happening earlier in the year. In such a 50-50 matchup, this could be very significant. Already has his core items done, and a 1,000 gold lead here for the Aatrox. Aatrox, one of the best and most reliable strong skirmishing laners to be able to spread that lead to a team fight with his basic, God mode ultimate. Stay alive as bot lane.
Oh, really fantastic mechanics there. Insec makes that flash body slam happen, and just once again, fantastic timing. He's right there on point, knows Joker doesn't have his flash, able to make the flash gank work for another kill.
Time to try to make a triumphant return to Korea is Insec, really turning back the clock with those sort of plays. Nice to see. Crush can double down and gain the first turret of the game, though. None are taken just yet. Will they even have to use the Rift? Oh, let's go for a kill.
I mean, they just want the flash coming in there from Crush. There is no hope for the life of Crab up in the top side. At least the first blood turret is down in the bottom side for winners, as Insect once again is there to help out.
And the surreal thing is, you look at the lay of the land on specifically the scoreboard, until you factor in the Inferno, it's actually SANDBOX leading, because look at where the kills have unfortunately gone for winners. Everything on the Thresh, all 3 kills go to Thresh. Joker's walking up here.
Oh, I don't know about this. He's going to have to try for this one. The smite comes through for Insec. Barrel comes in, but not much hope. They're just going to have to try to get out of here, winners. They do pick up that Drake, but now they want to get away with their lives, as Marit is able to land that root, but here comes Dove looking for that edge kill. Does he have enough damage? The poke through with the piercing arrow nearly gets him, and now Insect gonna body slam his way away, and there is the stun just barely on time, and Camille coming through the Pop Blossom, not enough to keep her alive either.
Those cleanup kills are so important. They do lose the Inferno, a massive thing, but consider what happened in the meantime. While the teleport was happening, they lost inner turret to just the Rift Herald charge. They're gonna lose mid turret here. The gold snowball here for SANDBOX can be insane.
Oh, they're going to get so much overall. The 2 extra kills, the 3 turrets in total now. They're just rolling in it right now, Papa.
Important to note at this moment, because Thresh has all the kills, even with Inferno, you'd like where SANDBOX is. They have Assassins. They're the one that's going to be unleashed on the map with items and an item lead faster and better. But then the cleanup here really is the icing on the cake for SANDBOX Gaming.
Look at Camille come all the way from the top side.
Yeah, she's still helping out with the turret as this all begins. They chase in. Insect trying to spare the blushes of his mid laner. Gets caught, with a cookie in his hand, because unfortunately his mid laner had that lust for a bit more. They lose 2 kills on the back of it. And now just look at the items and look at where the game state is. Right now, SANDBOX are where we saw so many teams yesterday before they just killed off the game, where they just a bit more gold, but breaking the base, or maybe in the first Baron, but that still spawns in 3 minutes time.
Yeah, honestly, SANDBOX as a team so far have impressed. I think Insec, definitely a great showing in his first game coming back to Korea, but the rest of the team here on the side of SANDBOX, especially Weiser and Crush, coming together to get so many objectives on the top side and then return to help out on the bottom side and increase their lead. Really impressing so far.
And the tricky thing you say for winners is consider a team fight and where their items are at. How does winners win one of those team fights? Awkward turn of phrase, but the reason why I point to it is all the kills on Thresh. You have a snowball Zeke's. Unfortunately, Zeke's nerfed on this patch. It actually does 40% less burn damage when it was tuned down on this patch. Obviously, if it's unequal numbers like this, it can be different as Hollow chases in. Ult hits onto Grog, so they're going to back away.
A harassment ult, yeah.
And then you're like, okay, Nico will pick up the damage. Unfortunately, LeBlanc, Camille, and Aatrox just use everything to get onto Nico. So her being able to avoid enemy damage and maximize her own damage seems almost impossible outside of a 5-man Pop Blossom. Given those two things together, not a lot of damage on this lineup. Crab way behind in CS on the Urgot. Feels like right now it's kind of blunt weapons being wielded by winners. Meanwhile, SANDBOX Gaming, whatever objective they roll up to, they're going to be ultra confident they can pick it up.
Yeah, like imagine if winners had a real weapon, something like, you know, they first pick the Nico, but then after they give away the Camille and the Aatrox, they go ahead, pick this bottom lane. There were a lot of other picks, right? Aurelia, Akali, all this stuff was left available. Instead, they go for the Lucian Thresh. Thresh gets all the kills. Lucian not even farmed up. It's kind of an unfortunate way that moved, you know, from the draft into the game.
This feels like they're trying to play through bot side, and that's so hard to do in the current meta. But speaking of bot side,
well, Weiser, just a zoning ultimate. We've seen quite a lot of those so far, but it does work out as they do pick up the turret and some extra gold for their team.
LCK versus Challenger has not been too kind for the LCK so far in this tournament. Much more sample size to be looking at, but this is feeling a bit more like the billing we were expecting when the tournament opened up. Dove, like we mentioned, going to be so confident going into a side lane on this LeBlanc compared to the Nico, who's, you know, just at all moments worried about being all-in by any combination of two champions on the side of SANDBOX. She's going to pick up some minions, but we keep calling for that Nico power pick to just be turned down. Nico was a counter pick. Nico was a bot lane flex. There's some validity in that, but power picking mid lane Nico, especially into this game, is honestly disrespectful. First picking it when LeBlanc, Akali, Aurelia are all open, all champions who can deal with her so well.
It's risky, to say the least.
It's bold, exactly. It's bold, you know, at best case scenario for the Nico, and it just certainly hasn't panned out.
Yeah, I mean, we're still waiting for the Nico to have that moment. I know that I get the same feels where I don't feel like I can first pick a Nico or pick it early on in a draft if I don't know what I'm going up against. You and I were talking about it before we even started the first day of casting. Maybe as a counter pick, maybe in the bottom lane, as you were saying, but we'll have to wait and see if some of the later teams eventually pick up on this. Obviously, new patch, new stuff coming in here, and teams are still getting used to it and practicing exactly where the Nico will work.
But despite being 5,000 gold down, because it's an AoE ultimate that does huge burst, there is always Baron throw potential that winners can take advantage of. That's really the only scene the crime available. No other scene works. Certainly not a Cloud Drake, giving that one up for free if you're the side of winners, but you do everything you can to put down vision, chop a Predator just to zone people away to get your wards in, and then you hope, against hope, for the biggest possible Pop Blossom and a Baron throw from SANDBOX Gaming. It's possible, it may be unlikely, but there's blood on your hands after misplaying the draft in the early game, and really that's all winners have to look on the calendar when it comes to a way back into game number 1.
Yeah, wait for it, and eventually maybe the Urgot gets out of control tanky. You can kind of play front to back, protect the Nico and Lucian. Lucian, obviously, a lot of mobility. Wait for SANDBOX to stretch too far. You have that Infernal Drake. You have that later game Drake. Maybe you can make something happen. And so far, I mean, we haven't had too much action for the last 5 minutes, except another turret going down to the side of SANDBOX alongside the Cloud Drake. So As far as winners are concerned, I know they don't want to be going out there and fighting right now. They'd rather just take this passive moment to wait this one out.
But the problem is that once you get this mid and top set up here with the teleport bot laner being Weiser here for the side of SANDBOX Gaming, how do you get those wards around Baron? How do you get any vision there apart from the spot vision that Lucian's Blue Trinket can provide? This is kind of the overwhelming scenario that so many teams in History of League of Legends have struggled against. You try and get a pick is winner's answer, and here's Insect trying for something.
Well, she still had her ultimate as well as another hop forward, is going to chunk down Insec, a slap on the wrist saying, you can't gank me, what are you doing? And that means that now Demolish proc in the mid lane, he got that Varus already with his Rage Blade and Blade of the Rune King. He's going to be chunking out that turret, nearly able to get it in the mid lane.
It's even bigger 2-item power spike than it used to be. We have the Rage Blade, it's cheaper, it has a lot of upfront effectiveness, not the scaling as before. Here's the hook, but it is a tanky Braum.
Wouldn't be the first time Joker has died in this game, would have been the fourth, but they are going to get him once again. There's the flash hook. Hollow going to respond with his own flash. Dove, you see him in the side. He wants that Nico.
It has to be Empire. It's his 4th kill of the game, Val. It's all going to the Thresh. He has to make it happen. The Bloodthirst is support. Somewhere Doa is enjoying his play, but he's going to have to continue to make it Hook City. Otherwise, when it's just desperate to get some gold on the damage dealers.
Well, at least they're able to get some gold in total, some more assists, and now 5-on-4 looking for another turret. Dove just hiding in the left side like a crouching tiger, but not able to go on in there, called off by his team. They save the turret, no extra gold will go to winners, and they'll just have to be happy with their support having another great item in the future.
Yeah, it's just really unfortunate. The kill distribution here, the Ignite tick, the last final tick enough. Speaking of ticks.
Oh, there's the Pop Blossom, though. Got to be careful. Just barely gets out of there. Insec nearly assassinated. You know, he's not that tanky on this jungle Gragas so far.
It's another moment, though, where the Nico looks balanced because it's a reactive ultimate. If you're ulting after you see the enemy come into you, there's a lot of time and setup before the damage goes off, easily distorted out of. They're onto the Baron and looking for some exit kills here. Definitely SANDBOX trying to do a bit of everything.
Well, at least they do have the Urgot to move forward because Nico was just cowering in fear in the mid lane. They're totally zoned out here. Empire and Gap can't do it alone. Dove able to zone them out on the mid side. And that's going to be the Baron going over to SANDBOX as easy as you'd like.
Exactly. It's so straightforward, but again, we saw coming minutes ago. The setup changes from SANDBOX all around. Getting Baron control, they get the control. The Balloon Trinket isn't enough. It was on cooldown until just now. And unfortunately, now SANDBOX have the Baron. Now the team that it's drafted, kind of the 2019 look, is once again in what feels like, at this point, 7,000 gold in, a bit of an unassailable lead, Valdez.
Definitely does feel that way. We'll see if SANDBOX can close this out because, as we mentioned, KeSPA Cup is definitely a moment, a battleground to show your stuff. Are you ready to compete with the best of the best in the LCK? SANDBOX former team Battle Comics looked good, maybe not as good as Dom1 in the promotion tournament. They're coming in here trying to prove something for themselves for next year.
Just look at the item difference between the skill matchup of Aatrox and Urgot. Urgot has just finished his Righteous Glory as we speak. Meanwhile, Weiser has so much. Remember, this is the buff Death Stance that you see a lot more in your games. All forms of damage, not just physical damage, are going to be Spellvamped and Lifestealed off. So at this point, he can't even really enter lane. He can maybe wave clear, but it's Baron buff. Massive item purchases onto the Aatrox. Meanwhile, in the 1v1 on the bot side here, trying to get a hopeful pick onto Dove. They're going to try and get it here.
Might be able to burst him down. He is going to try to hop away, and the one tower shot not able to get him as Dove not even poked out on the backside. They committed so much just to get the LeBlanc, and the rest of the team is pushing.
Exactly. They got a half a second respite. LeBlanc actually going to push the minions anyway while the team responds to coming into the mid lane here. Everything is coming up SANDBOX Gaming on their big debut as an organization. And winners just being pulled to every lane.
Yeah, it's so funny that Dove can just make it back as the Dark Seal comes in with his 3 stacks of corrupting pots. Says, hey, I'm nearly at full health once again. And even if the LeBlanc is at half health, not even sure that the Nico can go toe-to-toe with her at this point. It's just too much of a one-sided matchup even as the game goes along.
Again, you have to think of this tournament, the KeSPA Cup, as honestly the best possible experience coming into 2019. It's all about stage experience with new rosters rather than a last hurrah for old rosters like it used to be before. So it honestly feels like we're cheating and broadcasting scrims, right? Honestly, when it comes to these teams, when it comes to how the teams are setting up, and SANDBOX have looked pretty damn good with the 5-man that we wouldn't even be able to choose from the 10-man roster. Yeah. This 5-man roster is looking very, very strong. And so far, no big mistakes and honestly some great moments from basically everyone on their team in game number 1.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, we'll have to see how they do in the later stages of the tournament if they do end up closing out this best of 3. Neil gonna be
You're going in!
Okay, there goes the Thresh. He's fed as all hell. That doesn't mean he's gonna survive though. Joker staying alive. Dove even getting his own assassination onto Gap there, nearly taking him out. Pop Blossom does basically nothing on the backside. Merit also gonna go down. It's a complete team wipe, and that's gonna end this complete wipe of a game here for SANDBOX as they're going to take out winners in game 1.
A perfect ace in the end. Empire goes on the ride of a life, but unfortunately that ride sends him straight into the death chamber. We have a very unique stat, Valdez. Honestly, the first game ever probably where the support had 100% kills for his team as the game ended. 4 kills go the way of winners, all 4 to the support. We had Kramer pick up 100% kills on Isaiah, but a support picking up 100% kills. We knew it wasn't going to be a boon. Unfortunately, that ride to his death at the end was honestly one of the best metaphors for how that game went for winners. I think Insect can hold his head high. I think he had a pretty good game in spite of the result. But it felt like at the end of the day, SANDBOX knew the 2019 meta better than winners did, and they were comfortable victors in game number 1.
Definitely have to agree, all smiles on the side of SANDBOX Gaming, and it looks like one smile on the side of winners. That was Insect. You mentioned that. He had a pretty good game, wouldn't really say that he did anything wrong in that one. Just unfortunately, as a team, not able to step up to the plate. Let's take a look at this.
As mid-hook shot, the flash, amazing long-range engage that unfortunately straight into his doom. Some more amazing for us, the spectators, than Empire, who had 100% kills for his team. Pop Blossom actually missed. Wasn't even cleansed out of. The cleanse was used while he was out of the radius. First pick Nico, we're going to put a big fail on that one for the side of winners. Maybe something they need to retune when it comes to their preparation for pick and ban in game number 2. But SANDBOX Gaming, a lot of smiles. Very comfortable victory. Hanwha Life, a big org, didn't have much to show for their games yesterday. This time around, at least in game number 1, SANDBOX Gaming on their debut, going to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, so guys, thank you for joining us for game number 1. We're going to take a quick break before we do get to game number 2 of SANDBOX Gaming versus Team Winners. We'll be right back.